Democratic access to information doesn't mean all opinions about technical subjects are equally valid. We need to talk about expertise, why it matters, how to identify it, and how to balance respect for specialized knowledge with appropriate questioning of authority. Expertise develops through years of training, methodological rigor, peer accountability, and specialized knowledge impossible to replicate through internet research. An immunologist studying vaccine responses has spent decades learning immune system complexity, familiarizing themselves with research literature, understanding statistical methods for evaluating evidence, and developing recognition of nuances invisible to non-experts. This matters because evaluating vaccine safety requires technical knowledge most people lack. You need to understand immunology to assess whether proposed mechanisms are biologically plausible. You need statistical training to identify methodological flaws in studies. You need familiarity with the literature to contextualize new findings within existing evidence. Without this background, even intelligent people make errors specialists would immediately recognize. But there's a paradox here. The internet democratized information access, which is valuable. People can read research directly rather than relying solely on experts' interpretations. But this creates the Dunning-Kruger effect. People overestimate their understanding from superficial exposure, not knowing what they don't know. Reading abstracts of studies doesn't provide the methodological literacy to critically evaluate them. Watching YouTube videos about vaccines doesn't replace immunology training. We see false equivalence everywhere. Both sides presented as equal when one represents overwhelming expert consensus, while the other represents fringe minority. A debate between an immunologist and a vaccine skeptic creates impression of legitimate controversy when actually one person has relevant expertise and the other doesn't. Media outlets do this constantly, platforming non-experts contradicting scientific consensus in the name of balance. How do we identify genuine expertise? Look for institutional affiliations at research universities or hospitals. Examine publication records in peer-reviewed journals specifically in the relevant field. Check whether the person is recognized by professional peers. Have they received awards, spoken at legitimate scientific conferences, been cited by other researchers? Be wary of credentialed individuals speaking outside their expertise. An accomplished surgeon commenting on vaccine epidemiology isn't using their expertise any more than they would be discussing astrophysics. Here's what's difficult. Respecting expertise without descending into authoritarianism. Experts can be wrong. Consensus changes based on new evidence. History shows examples of scientific consensus being overturned. We need humility about knowledge limits while recognizing that expertise usually, not always but usually, produces more accurate conclusions than non-expert opinion. The distinction is between trust science as blind obedience versus understanding that scientific consensus represents cumulative expert evaluation of evidence. We shouldn't believe something just because an authority figure says it. We should recognize that when thousands of scientists across different countries and institutions reach similar conclusions through independent research, that consensus is more reliable than contrary claims from non-experts or tiny minorities. When does consensus change? Through new evidence rigorously evaluated, not through social media campaigns or dramatic individual studies. The consensus that peptic ulcers are caused by H. pylori bacteria rather than stress changed when researchers provided strong evidence of bacterial causation and mechanism. The consensus didn't change because people felt strongly that bacteria must be involved or because one dramatic study claimed it. We need appropriate epistemic humility. Non-experts should hold medical opinions provisionally, recognizing we lack knowledge to evaluate evidence as rigorously as specialists can. This doesn't mean never questioning experts. It means recognizing when we're actually questioning versus when we're just asserting confidence we haven't earned. There's room for legitimate debate about values, priorities, and uncertainty. Experts can tell us what evidence shows about vaccine safety and efficacy. They can't tell us how to weigh competing values or make personal medical decisions incorporating individual circumstances. But on factual questions about biological mechanisms, epidemiological evidence, and technical methodology, expert consensus deserves deference absent compelling contrary evidence. The expertise problem isn't solved by rejecting all authority or accepting all expertise uncritically. It's navigated by understanding what expertise offers, identifying it accurately, remaining open to evidence-based consensus changes, and maintaining humility about the limits of non-expert understanding.